So good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this session. My name is Matthew Genazzini, and I work for ADA, and I'm coordinating this new program called the Smallholder Safety Net Upscaling program. Today's objective is really to introduce you to the program and give you an oversight as to what we're hoping to achieve. Initially, this session was going to be designed for donors, for potential donors of the program. But seeing as there was so much interest from participants of the conference, we thought we'd open it up to all. So welcome all. So in terms of today's agenda, over the next 20 minutes or so, what I'm going to try and do is introduce you to the program, go over the overall objectives, look at the different stakeholders that are involved, of which there are many, and then explain how the program is going to work with an example of a project. And then my colleague Mathilde will take over and introduce a very, very important aspect of the program, which is the knowledge management component. And then I'll discuss the budget before handing it over to the floor so that we can answer any of your questions. So before kind of jumping in, I'd like to introduce you first to this lady called Elena. Now, Elena is a widow. She has 5 children and lives in Mozambique. She has a small piece of land and she cultivates, as you can tell, behind maize. A couple of years ago, 2 weeks before her harvest, there was a flood and she lost everything. She relied on her crop for most of her annual income and much of her food. She had no access to savings, no emergency credit, no possibility for insurance. So our only solution was really to reduce her income and reduce her food consumption. The World Bank estimates that there are there are around 500 smallholder farmers worldwide, representing above 2 billion people. And most of these people work on farms that are less than 2 hectares large and constitute a very large proportion of the population that live under $2 a day. Hence, it's really these people that need to improve their lives and their livelihood. And indeed, there was a recent report from IFAD that mentioned that in Asia and Sub-Saharan Africa, small-scale farmers are estimated to provide over 80% of food production. Furthermore, the agricultural sector provides over 40% of jobs in this region, and this really kind of confirms the importance of this sector. Not that it was ever in doubt, but I think it's important to have these data points in mind just to understand how important it is. So here comes this new program called the SNUP. Now, the SNUP is not going to solve this issue, but what it aims to do is to contribute to the solution. So what is the SNUP and what are the objectives? So the SNUP is a 10-year program that aims to strengthen the resilience or the safety net of around 10 million smallholder households through a systematic agricultural value chain development approach. It's quite a mouthful. As you can see, our target, which is 10 million, only represents 2% of the estimated 500 million population that we were looking at. So it gives you a kind of a size of the problem at stake. So how are we going to strengthen these smallholder farmers? Well, the idea is that we do it in 3 ways. And the first one is to ensure that smallholder farmers are integrated into their relevant agricultural value chains. And what do we mean by that? We mean that they can access their inputs, access inputs that are more resilient, access inputs that have better yield. It means that they can access fertilizers. It means that they can access farm equipment, information, so information on selling prices, information on weather, and also access to markets, whether that's the local market, regional, or global. The second component is really related to accessing financial services that improve risk management. We're not only talking about insurance, but all financial services. So we're talking about credit, savings, and as well as others. And the third component relates to the adoption of smart, sustainable farming practices that are in line with the agroecological principles. And we'll look at this as an example a little bit later on. So if we manage to do all this, the idea is that we will increase the resilience of smallholder farmers through risk management and risk transfer instruments through financial services. We'll increase their food productivity through better and more sustainable farming practices. And all this in turn will improve food security and stimulate growth and employment. So this is really kind of the rationale behind the SNUP. I understand it's quite pretty theoretical, but it's important to put down the foundations of what we hope to achieve. And I'll go into exactly how we hope to achieve in over the next couple of slides. But before I do that, maybe I can talk about the target countries. So the SNUP has around over 90 countries that are eligible for SNUP funding. You can find the complete list on the program document that you can download from the ADA website. But basically, these countries are low income, lower middle income, and upper middle income countries in Africa, Asia, and Latin America. Now, there's a special focus on low income countries and a special focus on Africa as well. So we do finance other countries, but we want to focus a lot on Africa. And then in terms of budget, as I mentioned before, it's a 10-year program with an estimated budget of 55 million euros. And the program's divided into different phases, of which the first phase is going on from October this year until the end of 2023, with a budget of around 80 million euros, which we'll go into detail a little bit later. So now that we've got kind of an idea of the global objective of the program, I want to go into who are the stakeholders, and there are many, and it's important to understand these stakeholders to understand how the program has been built and put together. Now, normally I would start with the smallholder farmers to be, client-centric, but today I'm going to be ADA-centric and start with the role of ADA. So our role is really to be in charge of coordinating the program as a whole. So we'll be monitoring, reporting, fundraising, managing all the relationships with the donors, the impact investors, basically ensuring that everything is in place, procedures, processes, so that the objectives can be met. And the second kind of component of our role is, as I mentioned before, the knowledge management activities, which will be key in developing the lessons learned and communicating them amongst not only kind of reintegrating them into the program, but also disseminating them throughout the sector. The second lot are the donors. So we currently have two donors of the program, the Luxembourg Ministry of European and Foreign Affairs and the Swiss Development Corporation. And of course, we are obviously open to other donors joining the program. The third stakeholders are the impact investors and their technical assistance facilities. So as you can see, we currently have 5 impact investors on the program. And by 2023, we hope to have another 3. One of the criteria of an impact investor is to join the program is that they have what we're calling a technical assistance facility. In most cases, these are separate entities from their investment activities that implement projects that strengthen their investments. But it doesn't have to be a separate entity. It can be a team, as is in the case of some of our investors. And then we come down to the investees or the aggregators. So they represent kind of the heart of the program. They're essentially actors in the agricultural value chain who are financially linked with the investors, either in capital or in debt. And we've identified 3 types of investees. So the first one are the small and medium enterprises, so the SMEs. So these are actors involved in the agricultural value chain. So they're companies involved in the production, processing, storage, transportation of agricultural products. You can see the icon of hands over a small factory. The second type of investee are the agricultural cooperatives or farmer organizations. Essentially, they're groups of farmers with different objectives, whether that's financing or access to markets. And the third group, of course, are financial intermediaries. So the FSPs, microfinance institutions, the rural banks, insurance companies, brokers, or whoever are able to provide services to smallholder farmers. So these are really the key players within one of the main key player in the program. And then we come to the smallholder households. So people like Elena that I mentioned before. The objective is that these people will benefit from the TA projects that are being implemented in either two ways. One is directly through accessing additional financial and non-financial services, or indirectly by improved and strengthened agricultural value chains, or more efficient companies that are serving their needs better. So now you've got kind of an idea of all the different actors, stakeholders, people who are involved in the program. So how's this going to work? So in previous presentations, what I've normally done is I've presented the program by following the money trail. So I would start with the donors and work my way all the way down to the smallholder farmers. But today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to reverse that and start with the smallholder farmers. And so here we've got three farmers. So we've got Godfrey, who's 58, a maize and bean producer in Zambia. We've got Elena that I mentioned before, and Grace, who's a vegetable producer in Togo. Now, these examples are not very representative of SNUP because SNUP is on 3 countries, but there is a focus on Africa, so there's a logic behind it. So here we have the 3 examples of smallholder farmers that we want to strengthen, we want to support, we want to strengthen their safety net. So in order to do that, there's lots of information that we need to have on them. We need to understand the context that they live in, the country, the region. We need to understand their needs. What difficulties are they encountering? We need to understand the services that exist within their location and which ones don't. Do they have access to funding? If so, what kind of funding? Do they have access to training? If so, what kind of a training? Is it accessible? Is it effective? Where do they get their inputs from? Do they need farm equipment? So all these questions are questions that we would need to know, we would need to answer in order to build a project that would be able to strengthen their resilience. Now, we could do case studies, we could do market research, we could go and visit them. But if we're going to meet the need, if we're going to meet the objectives of the program, this is not an efficient way to doing so. And this knowledge that I mentioned before, it already exists on the ground, and it exists in organizations that are already interacting with our farmers, whether that's in a professional or financial relationship. Perhaps, they have a credit or a savings account with a financial institution. Perhaps they're a member of a farmers organization that provides them with inputs. Or perhaps they sell their products directly to markets and are therefore in contact with commercial companies or commercial buyers. So it's really these types of organizations that have that knowledge of the field and know, more or less, or at least much better than we do, the needs of their clients and know how to strengthen the agricultural value chain. And so these companies are also, some of them are also investees of impact investors. And therefore, by working directly with the TA facilities of impact investors, we can ensure that these organizations that are on the ground, that are in direct contact with the smallholder farmers, have the skills and the financial capacity to build and implement projects that meet not only their own needs, but also the needs of the clients. And this is really where SNUP has its added value. one of the things probably worth mentioning is SNUP, it does not intend to create anything new. We want to ensure that the funds are used as efficiently as possible. And it's really for this reason that we chose very consciously to work with and to build the project around these impact investors and their TA facilities, so that we were able to leverage the knowledge that they have and that their investees have on the ground. And by doing so, SNUP would not only strengthen the agricultural value chains, but also increase the smallholder resilience, farmer resilience. Another aspect that that the program is aiming to do is to reduce the risk of investments in agriculture. And this is really, really key, as one of the objectives of SNUP is to de-risk investments, and by doing so, increase the amount of investments in the sector. So that's very much kind of a very brief overview as to how we're going to be implementing the project. So if on Monday someone comes to you and says, so I saw you participate in the SNUP presentation, what's that program all about? All you have to say, I think, to present what we do is it's a facility that co-finances TA projects of impact investors that strengthen, on the one hand, the resilience of smallholder farmers, and on the other, aims to increase investments in the agricultural sector. So what kind of projects are we looking to implement? Are we looking to finance? And we've kind of identified four types of projects. They're pretty classical projects. So the first one is the development of non-financial services for smallholder farmers. So here we're talking about projects that push for the adoption of sustainable farming practices, projects that are related to certification, or projects that provide financial education and training. The second type of project is projects that develop financial services. So here we're talking about the classical product diversification projects that look to design, pilot, and distribute new financial products that are tailored to the needs of farmers. The third one, which we've entitled market building, are projects that aim to develop the market through creating linkages between the different actors. An example of this, I would say, is a project we're implementing in Ada in West Africa, which through a digital platform, we're looking to create linkages between financial institutions on the one hand, input producers on the other, and then farmers and also their markets. So this is a way that a project is bringing these different stakeholders together and facilitating their collaborations. So that's what we mean by market building. And the last one is internal management. So these are projects that aim to strengthen the investees themselves by improving their efficiency, their resilience, in order so that they can better serve the smallholder farmers. So here we're talking about improving risk management capabilities, financial management, digital processes, and so forth. So as you can see, that the types of projects that can be implemented with funding from the SNUP is not very restrictive. However, the emphasis needs to be put on impact, sustainability, and scalability. And therefore, to finance a project, we need to see the possibility of all of those. So let's take a look at an example of a project that could, be financed by the SNUP. And this is an example of a project that was implemented in Uganda with a company called the Great Lakes Coffee, which is a coffee sourcing and milling and export company that is an investee of responsibility. And they source their coffee from around 18,000 smallholder coffee growers. And the TA projects revolved around improving the quality of the production and strengthening the value chain itself through the certification. And what's interesting with this is what the case study kind of describes is that in 2018 there was a coffee crisis, and the price of coffee fell. And what they found was that the producers who had been certified, who were a part of this project, were not as affected, obviously, as those who were not included in the project. And what happened was that they were able to produce more, and they were able to sustain the price of their coffee at a much higher price than the others. So this is an example of how a project had a significant impact on improving the resilience of smallholder farmers, all thanks to the knowledge on the ground of the investee and the investor itself. So that's kind of, you know, the examples of how the program SNUP is going to work, and some examples. Now I'm going to hand you over to Mathilde, who's going to talk about the different components in terms of knowledge management and how we're going to kind of build the knowledge from the ground and then disseminate it through the program and through the sector.
Yeah, thank you, Matthew. I hope you can hear me well. So as you may have understood, one of the added values of this program is that it brings together several impact investors, which all have their specific approach and their specific experience, especially in terms of TA management. And what we expect by bringing them together in the frame of this program is to facilitate the sharing of experience, of already existing knowledge. And so it should facilitate as well the creation of new useful knowledge for the whole sector. To make sure this will happen, this means that the coordination role of ADA will not only relate to the coordination of technical assistance activities, but also to the sharing of information and of the knowledge created through the various TA projects. So what it means concretely, it means that first, we, as the coordinator of this program, will make sure that there is enough exchanges between TA managers of impact investors to at least first avoid duplication of TA activities for common investees, but also potentially to foster synergies and complementarity of TA activities. So this is for the part before the implementation of the TA project. Then when the TA projects will be implemented, we will also create the occasions and the proper spaces to share experience on specific topics. So it could be a specific type of TA intervention, such as the development of specific financial services or non-financial services. It could be also a particular agricultural value chain, which is supported through TA activities. So the idea is to create the spaces, the occasions to share the experience with impact investors and TA managers involved in these TA projects, but also sometimes with TA providers probably, and with some investees benefiting from these TA activities. So it should take the form mainly of workshops, could be physical or online workshops, depending on what is possible to organize, of course. Then in terms of result and impact measurement, we have defined a series of KPIs to track and which are harmonized across the various TA projects. So we used global frames of reference to choose these KPIs, such as IRIS Plus and the SDGs. And the idea is, of course, to aggregate all the results which will come from the various TA projects, not only to have an overview of the results of the overall program, but also to be able to compare the approaches on the basis of the results we observed in the field. And of course, to draw lessons from these results. To complement these mostly quantitative KPIs we will track, it's also planned to implement surveys with end clients, the end beneficiaries of the TA activities. It's planned to do that for 10 to 15% of the TA projects implemented. And the idea is to get a better understanding of the outcomes for these end beneficiaries. So what are these outcomes, positive outcomes, we hope, and how these outcomes came out from the TA projects. So if it's not precisely defined yet how we will organize these surveys, what is for sure is that we will make sure that things are again harmonized and centralized as much as possible, while remaining specific enough to get insightful information, of course. But again, the idea is to enable us to compare approaches and to draw lessons based on the results from various TA projects on the same topic. Finally, with one of the knowledge management partners, which is the International Institute for Sustainable Development, we will also carry out some case studies with agri-businesses. So IISD is currently developing a scoring tool which will enable the users to assess compliance of agri-businesses with the principles for responsible investment in agriculture. So the idea will be to create case studies based on this scoring tool, also to bring concrete knowledge to the sector about what it means to be compliant with such principles. So using all this material, we will create publications, we will create various knowledge management tools, and the idea is to disseminate all this knowledge and tools to the sector through some partners which have already been identified, such as the Council for Smallholder Agricultural Finance, such as the Microinsurance Network, but most probably with other actors as well. So I think I will stop here for knowledge management, and I give back the floor to Matthew.
Thanks, Mathilde. So the last slide that I wanted to show you was really related to the budget. And this, what you've got in front of you is the budget related to for the first phase. So we're talking about October 2020 to December 2023. I won't go through the whole budget, but just highlight a couple of the points. So in terms of TA projects, we hope to achieve the objective of that 80% of the funds go directly to TA projects. This is relatively ambitious, but I think with the efficiency philosophy of the program, it is achievable. The other point worth mentioning is that just under 5% is going to knowledge management, and this is quite a considerable amount of money going towards knowledge management. But if you take into account that we hope to be funding over 50 projects a year, there's a huge opportunity for learning from these projects. And then the other point is in terms of the investees. So we're aiming that the investees will co-finance the TA projects up to about 20%. This is classic kind of co-financing agreements. And now relating to the funding, so the part on the right to your screen is as the table and graph kind of illustrate. We've already raised around 12 million euros. So that's 3 million from the Luxembourg Ministry of European and Foreign Affairs and its development cooperation. We've received around 9 million euros or 9.5 Swiss francs from the Swiss Corporation. I mentioned before we should have around 3 million of co-financing from the investees, which leaves another 3 million to be raised over the next year or so. And as I mentioned before, initially we thought that we were going to design this session for potential donors only, but we thought it would be interesting to open it up to the participants of the conference, and also I see that some of our impact investors are also in the participants, so it might be interesting to get you to get involved in the following discussion. So with that, maybe what I'd like to do is maybe see whether one of our main donors, I know Hans is around somewhere, whether he has anything he'd like to add before I open up the questions to the floor. Hans?
Thank you very much, Matt. Yes, I would just like really to highlight that SNUP offers a really holistic approach to contribute to the creation of income and employment, to reduce food security, to reduce food insecurity, but also by improving sustainable agriculture in food value chains in regard to improve them towards more agroecological principles and more climate climate resilience practices. So we will see this as an important contribution to several social development goals, namely 1, 2, 12, 13, 15, also with gender as also an important transversal scheme, and the whole partnership as such also contributes to the goal number 17. So I feel that is a much smarter way for funder to partner with the private sector rather than to have different, let's say, different projects in order to improve, let's say, the non-agricultural financial part as well as agricultural finance. So here it comes all together, and the partnership with the impact investors would allow that there will be no funding gap, because otherwise we had a lot of projects with NGOs and they're developing very, let's say, innovative farm practice and so on, but then there was no upscaling because there was always the lack to access to finance. And here implementing this by the impact investors, so we will assure that there will be then also scalable operations towards more contributions to the SDGs. And last but not least, I also want to highlight this, and I see this as quite innovative and not just all the same like before, that we will have also a very good approach for measuring and reporting the outcomes, because that is what SDC in the past didn't see so much in partnering with impact investors. This is why we really brought in ADA to drive that part and assisting the impact investors to effective measurement approach of development outcomes, or private sector mainly refers to impact. And that is also very important for the funders. So I would see it rather as an initiative, hopefully maybe even beyond 10 years. Only SDC wanted to set the basically to give a signal that in principle they would be ready to fund or co-fund such an initiative for a longer term, because the need is quite appalling. I mean, we know that the Agenda 2030 will hardly be reached if we don't come up with more smarter collaborations with the private sector. We have 680 million people still hungry by last year. Now the COVID-19 triggered economic recession will add up another 100 million. So, I mean, we are far away for achieving the Agenda 2030, and we really need smart ways to engage with the private sector. Thank you.
Thank you, Hans, for that intervention. Just looking at the questions from the chat. So Rachel, you're asking, is there any chance to share details on the digital platform connecting farmers, input suppliers, and financial institutions? What I can do, Rachel, is put you into contact with my colleague who's implementing that program within ADA, and he'll be able to give you a lot more information on that initiative. Gilles, I see that you've asked 2 questions. So thanks for your words as well. So the gender lens. So gender, we will be following the gender. I think what's important here is that the projects are going to be built from the ground up. So it's really going to be up to the investees and their impact investors to build those projects and design them with the relevant objectives of their different needs. So if there is a gender lens, it's going to come from that end. From our end, what we're going to do is throughout the thousands of indicators that we've got, not thousands, but quite a few. There is going to be a gender indicators that we will be following.
And it's also part of the eligibility criteria, actually, and not necessarily requiring criteria, but it's one of the criteria which will be taken into account.
Okay, so thanks. Okay, Rachel, thanks for your email. We'll take it and I'll pass it on. Does anybody have any other questions? Are there any of the impact investors that are on the program want to make any comments? No. Okay, so Gilles, sorry, I missed the first part of your question. So the investee co-financing. So this is the investee themselves. So the financial institution, the SME that's on the ground, will be financing up to 20%, or from some projects maybe even 50% of the project themselves. This is kind of our common practice to ensure ownership of the projects on the ground. Your question as to why the impact investors are not also investing here. The impact investors, they're already investing a lot in terms of what they're providing is an enormous amount of knowledge from the ground in terms of what are the needs of these investees and who these investees are. Without their initiative, without being able to kind of base ourselves on the due diligence of these impact investors, we wouldn't be able to target the investees themselves. But they don't have the other side of the things. We have a whole variety of different kinds of impact investors as well. So there's going to be differences between them, and they'll need to kind of work out how things are done for each one. So I'm just reading Patricia's questions. She's got a couple. One is, where is the investment money coming from? Is there a commitment from the impact investors on that angle? So we do have this objective. One of the objectives is that the impact investors replicate the investment in TA in terms of investments, and I think that's something that will be done pretty easily from the impact investor side. The idea is really that we increase this investment within the agricultural value chain, and through the TA projects we can de-risk their investments so that they can invest more, whether that's investing into one investee or finding new investees to invest in. One of the things that the program can do is it can fund TA projects for potential investees of impact investors. So this is something that if an impact investor does identify an investee that is responding to the objectives of the program, we can finance a TA project that would kind of bring it up to a level where it can be invested in from that impact investor. Your second question, is the TA supposed to be linked only to investee companies or also as prep TA?
Before investment.
Okay, so I just answered that. That's good. I just lost it. How does SNUP define safety nets? How does SNUP define safety nets? Hans, yeah, would you like to?
Well, we have a very broad definition that, we could say threefold. On the one hand, it would strengthen their income and generating capability through access to financial, but also very importantly to non-financial services in order to help them to also raise smallholder productivity. Secondly, all kind of measures which will raise their resilience against natural disaster and climate change and so on. So this includes, for instance, agri-extension on more drought resilient seeds, for instance, but also very much agriculture insurance solution we would also like with the impact investors to promote. But last but not least, we see it also by reducing their social exclusion. So this could also be, let's say, also savings and life insurance services by local or regional service provider, which will allow them to better to overcome social exclusion, to enable them to better integrate. And regarding the strengthening of income earning opportunity, I also want to mention it is also very much by trying to better integrate them in their agriculture or food value chains through this transactions with their partners, with their input or output suppliers, and those who are then the investees of the impact investors. So particularly also in scaling up digital sourcing platforms, which will allow to bring more smallholder farmers into better organized agriculture and food production value chains. Thank you.
Thanks, Hans. Another question is regarding the certification process and whether we support any specific certification schemes. Again, these are projects that will be coming from the investees, from the impact investors. So they'll be proposing projects, and then what will be happening is those proposals will be put to a committee, which will then validate those projects. And it will be within that committee that we plan to have the capacity and the knowledge to be able to analyze those projects in an effective way, and whereby we will be looking at specific those certification schemes. So in short, we're not looking at supporting specific schemes. We're just looking at schemes that will come to us, and then when they do come to us, we'll be analysing thereafter. Gilles, you got another couple of questions.
Sorry for that.
That's all right. That's all right. I was expecting them from you. Does it mean that TA would go to investees of those investors? So yes, essentially yes. So we are very much limiting. I mean, limiting the scope of the program to investees and potential investees of the program. Your second question relating to a health scheme for all farmers in the program, so that we have scale and diversification. Can you explain this a little further?
Yeah, thanks. So what I was thinking, it's just a crazy idea, but I think you guys are going to reach a number of smallholder farmers, and we have. I think you're aware of the scheme that we've built, the caregiver at Women's Wealth Banking, where we have made the case for very simple health products, so life component and a hospital cash. And I was thinking that having all these farmers from these investees, that actually creates a group of people that is going to be diversified, if you will, from a geographical perspective. But we could actually think of creating a scheme for all these investees, and have all the farmers covered under one big scheme for hospital cash, for example, with a centralized way of dealing with the claims, making economies of scale by providing a kind of cross-border safety net use that word for your farmers.
Go on, Hans.
Well, Jill, I thought that you will pose that question. So in the way that
meeting expectations,
we perceive SNUP as an innovation facility, very much driven by the proposals, the needs of the investees of our investment partners, and those investees there can be also farmers organizations, co-ops, like the example Matt already mentioned, and if they see this as supporting their, let's say, their members in getting more out of social exclusion and so on, well, yes, in principle, it would be clear, I mean, or eligible, as long as it is clear that we will then, it will be a good contribution to our various social development goals. So it is very much as a bottom-up initiative, and by using this great outreach to those investees of the many impact investors we have. I mean, there are a few hundreds or even thousands, and that is actually, I think, really the great advantage SNUP would bring to use that that large, let's say, network of market actors in the south, and then to facilitate there. So that doesn't mean that they also will use the funds by themselves. I mean, they will need also then service providers and so on. But it will be managed by the TA facilities of the investment partners, really to also have the close link with the investments, and what we hope for with the additional investments that would also trigger. Thank you.
Thanks, Hans. Thanks, Gilles, for your question. I've got another question from Patricia regarding the decision body process, or the decision body and the process. So, on this side of things, the idea again is to be as efficient as possible and building on what already exists. So we receive project proposals, and the objective is to validate or to make a decision on that project within 10 days. And the body that decides that are the donors. So the donors are essentially going to validate each of these TA projects, and they will be bringing on board the relevant experts or expertise necessary to make sure that a good decision is taken with regard to each of the TA projects. What's great is to have this kind of involvement of the donors at a very operational side of things, as it keeps them close to the ground. It keeps them close to knowing exactly what's going on. And enables everyone to be informed of where the program's going and what types of projects are being implemented. So that's the process in which the projects will be approved. I think we've answered all the questions in the chat. Another one. So Patricia says, hence a nice addition in terms of insurance solutions, a very good entry for aggregating smallholder farmers and farm workers can be through national farmers associations, although they would probably not be an investee of an impact investing. However, this could provide for the numbers that are interesting for an insurance company. Indeed, yeah.
So I'm just going to unmute myself, Matthew and Hans. One question: is there going to be a list of these investees, like in terms of, and I'm thinking business development right now, also working with those investees, or is it kind of a private thing and it's kind of on a need-to-know basis?
No. So you know, we're all about transparency here at ADA. So the idea is that once a project is validated, then we'll be putting that information up on the SNUP the SNUP web pages, which are located on the ADA website. So on that website, you'll be able to view all the projects that are being implemented, the investees that are being supported, and what types of projects and all the information related to those projects will be on there. So there'll be essentially a fact sheet per project, per TA projects that is being implemented. So Patricia and Gilles, you know, if you've got other questions, please don't hold back. And the others.
I think it's time for the others to speak up. So I stop asking questions now officially. But thanks, this is really super interesting. And the conversation definitely to be continued.
Definitely, thank you, Patricia.
Hello, Matthew.
Hi.
Munashe here from Symbiotics. I just had a small question regarding the audit. Is there an audit firm that has already been contracted to take care of the audits regarding the SNUP projects?
Oh, this is a great question, and one that we've been working on and racking our heads for a while. No, so again, it's there's different levels of audit. So there's the audit at the ADA level, which we're looking at the financing of the program at our level, and then there's the audits of the different impact investors. And again, what we want to do is build on what the impact investors already do and already have. So building on the audits that you already do. So the idea is that not that we ask for another audit specifically on the SNUP account of the impact investors, but to build on the audits that you already do.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thanks.
Goodbye.
So we've got 5 minutes left. I'll wait another minute to see if there's any last questions or points.
I'm just jumping back there. Could you share some of the timelines? I think you may have shown them, perhaps I missed them, but in terms of you know, for a typical TA on the process, for how long do you have time commitment, minimum time of a project, maximum time, and the duration of the facility? So
in terms of the projects, we haven't put minimum or maximum amounts. What we're looking for is ideally is kind of small short-term projects, but that's not to say that we won't accept larger, longer projects. I mean, we've just received pipeline projects from the impact investors, and you know, they're projects that go from 3 months to 24 months, and so there are a whole range of different lengths of projects. You know, again, what we want to do is be as responsive as possible. So when a project is sent in, we aim to validate that project within 10 days. So we could have committees, you know, 5 committees in 1 week and none for the next 2 weeks. So it's very much a kind of responsive program that we're trying to implement here, that is as flexible as possible in terms of length, in terms of amounts, and in terms of of implementation activities, but always taking into account that scalability and that impact at the end.
Matthew?
Yes.
Yeah, maybe another question, but a contribution in another way. Yeah, I would just want to express our gratitude to the donors and to all who have been organizing this. Of course, this comes from an impact investor, so we are very happy with the support for our investees. We think it's a unique program in the way it has been designed. So really, from the start on, with the impact investors on board. So yeah, I think that's really, I haven't seen that before in this way. So that's been great, even in COVID times. I think it's a very flexible program. So it really plays into our needs to see what's happening in the market and to directly act on that and support our investees. So it's really flexible designed. You also mentioned the short timelines we have for preparing proposals and submitting them. I think that's also great. That's really unique that it's on a rolling basis. So in a way, I'm also calling for any other donors which might be on this call or a colleague impact investors who want to join this program. I think you should get on board. Thanks.
Thanks, Hans. That's very kind of you. But Hans is on the steering committee of the SNUP.
Thank you.
Okay, so maybe I'm going to close the session. I'd like to say thank you to everyone. Thanks for participating. Thanks for your inputs, Gilles, Patricia, Hans, and everyone else, and Hans, the two Hanses, and hopefully this time next year, by the next European Microfinance Week, hopefully we'll be there in person. Hopefully we'll be able to present you some of the results of this program, and hopefully we'll be able to kind of show some real kind of positive impact from all the activities that are being implemented. So without further ado, thanks for everything, and have a great weekend. Thank you.
Thanks, great weekend, bye.
Bye.